Alright, I don't know if this is working or how well this is going to work, but we'll find out. Let's see here. I need to see if I'm broadcasting, because I don't know if I am. Looks like I am. Broadcasting. Let's see here. Okay, we are. Alright, so we're doing this then. So, for those just joining us, here, let me get people. Watch my show you my results, which will be saved forever. Alright, so, to people joining us, what this is unfortunately the actual official live stream of the results wasn't able to be recorded. In addition, there were some technical problems, let's say. So we'd had a whole team set up. The speaker, I was the announcer, Red Wolf was the commentator, and Jack was the streamer. And we had guests and everything like that, and Discord decided to quit on us. So, pretty much without Discord, it was just Jack. But fortunately, kudos to him, Jack was able to take over and read out the rest of the election results, so we're very thankful to him. But unfortunately, nothing got recorded, so we don't have that for posterity. So what I'm doing is my own little personal project, just because I want to. I'm re-recording all of it with a bit of spice. Basically, I'm going to be reading this shit the way that I would if I had been in charge. So, hopefully everyone who wants to be here is here already, and we are taking off. Hello and welcome to the 9th general election for CM Hawk. We are here at Canada Votes, and we're going to be taking a look at the ridings tonight. Results are going to be coming in from the Atlantic, Quebec, Ontario, the Prairies, and British Columbia. In the Atlantic, we have 5 ridings: Newfoundland and Labrador, Prince Edward Island, 2 ridings from Nova Scotia, and the province of New Brunswick. Let's get right to it. In the riding Halifax South Shore, Canadian Man GP has won with 48% of the vote. Now, Canadian Man had run a very strong campaign, although clearly invisible from the Liberals had tried to run a strong campaign against him. It looks like Canadian Man's presence, probably his presence in the House and throughout the term, helped him, as well as his very strong campaign. In New Brunswick, we have Kinth, who wins re-election. In the previous election, using the proportional system, Kinth took a very high vote total across the entire Atlantic, was the incumbent MP, and has been able to hold on to this seat, although the amount of campaigning that had actually taken place within New Brunswick had been limited. But Kinth has been returned and will be heading back to Parliament. In Prince Edward Island, Unknown User has won for the Liberals. Now, unfortunately, there is an error on this. This should be 48%. I will let you know that I actually had to write some of these numbers in because there were a few errors, and I screwed that up, so please do not blame Vibe for that. So 48%. This has actually been one of the strongest seats for the Liberals in CM Hawk history, and Prince Edward Island is very strong for the federal Liberals in real history as well. In Cape Breton Fundy, Snow Guy ends up beating KH1236. Now, KH and Snow Guy both did quite a bit of campaigning, and I know KH is disappointed, and as the Liberal guy, I am a bit disappointed we were unable to win this one. But Snow Guy not only did quite a bit of campaigning, but I think he was involved in some House stuff. I'm not 100% sure. But that would go towards the victory in this riding. Now, Newfoundland and Labrador was a big battleground where we had Jack and Pax Britannicus battling it out head-to-head. Now, the Liberal Party actually gave the Conservatives their endorsement, making this a very strong two-way race. And as you can see, Jack has won. And again, these have gotten reversed. And again, that's my fault. Please do not blame Vibe for that. So there they are, the proper figures as they should look. Excuse me. So yeah, this is what we have here. Jack beating Pax 53-46. Now, for the Atlantic, basically we're coming out with a few more Conservative seats. The Conservatives have won both Nova Scotia seats, the Liberals in PEI, NDP for Newfoundland, and the Radicals in New Brunswick. We have Quebec coming up next. And in Montreal East, which was the biggest battleground of the whole election, we have Prancing Skeleton eking out a victory. Now, the amount of resources and money and door knocking that was on the ground in Montreal East was just incredible. There were, I believe, 1/9 of all of the money, aka spent in this election was spent in this riding, so that's 1/9, over 10% of the money in the entire election was spent here in Montreal East. And we can see Prancing Skeleton beating Zhukov. Now, the reason for this was partly the strong campaign, but also Prancing, I believe, does have a past within Parliament. I don't know if this last Parliament, but he definitely does. And as well, the Liberals were very coordinated on making sure that this was one of the ridings that they definitely wanted to win. Unfortunately, I'm not in a position to speak to the other parties and what they were or were not able to do, but I do know the Liberals targeted the heck out of this particular riding. In Quebec Levy, we have the leader of the Bloc Québécois, Imas, taking his seat with a pretty close competition for 0/0, who is seen by some as a new face, basically someone who some people might consider just a name on the ballot. So a very strong result for the Liberals against the Bloc leader. And the Bloc leader may end up facing questions about his possibility to remain Bloc leader due to his poor showing in his own riding. However, we go to Sherbrooke, where the Chatty Show has won. And we have Jack Sazzy, who managed to win in Gatineau. Now, the New Pharos has lost, and this 56-43. This riding, the Gatineau riding, interestingly, as with a few of these other ridings we've seen, is north of the St. Lawrence River. So all of these block victories we have seen are currently coming from north of the St. Lawrence River. Now, in Montreal West, we have a victory from Nunavut. Now, there was a very strong competition put up by the Conservatives in this riding, and the Conservatives definitely wanted to win this, but unfortunately were not able to do so. But as we can see, it was within 2%. It was a very close race for them, so it definitely was a competitive riding. The Bloc were way back in 4th place here in the Anglophone part of Montreal, and Nunavut ends up taking it for the NDP. In Longueuil, we see Clementine, the Grand Clementine, or Clemmy, as he is known to some, manages to win with nearly 40% of the vote, compared to about 30% for both of his opponents. And Beauce-Gaspé, Francis McCumhall wins with a massive victory. I believe this is the largest landslide we have seen yet, 68.57%. And if you were following this on the campaign trail, this is not a surprise. This is somewhere the Tories put in a lot of resources. Francis himself worked very hard, and this win is definitely well-deserved for the Conservatives in this riding. In Laval, we have Zhang Tong swinging. Now, Zhang Tong has a long history in this in politics in this country. He has been in many parties before. Currently, he's with the Bloc, but he has also been Speaker of the House of Commons, interestingly. And we will have to see how this is going to play out with him and Imas, who some might be looking at for doing poor in his riding, and to see if Zhang Tong will rise up to take over the Bloc and become its new leader. In Saguenay-Nunavut, we have a victory for the Bloc over the Liberals. Now, I happen to know Aurora HOC was definitely hoping to win this riding, and so was the Liberal Party. But again, these ridings that we have here, as you can see on this map, north of the St. Lawrence River, have all gone to the Bloc Québécois. It's only south of the river that we see ridings that are going to other parties, as well as, of course, the island of Montreal. Now, technically, Montreal lies north of the river, but we can see it split between the Liberals and the NDP. And the Liberals win 2 of the 3 other southern ridings, and the Conservatives take the final one. Which brings us into Ontario. Excuse me. And in Etobicoke, we have Dominion of Canada, who may end up as the Prime Minister at the end of this night, taking a massive victory against the Radicals in his riding. In Ottawa, we have Vending Machine King, a former Prime Minister, winning with over 80% of the vote. So it's a return for Vending Machine King to the House of Commons. In York, we have some interesting results, not necessarily with who won, although the Conservatives have won this riding, but with the independent candidate Barossa, and his interesting ideals, let's say, that have been proposed by him. In Toronto Centre, we have an unfortunate showing for Lyra 7 of the Libertarian Party of Canada, trademark bracket brought to you by /r/anarcho_capitalism bracket, who, although the party leader has unfortunately done poorly in this election, but we do see a victory here for the Liberals over the Radicals, who ran a very strong campaign, and I know some Liberals within Toronto Centre are wondering who this Radical candidate was, but as someone who did so well, they should probably take some efforts to find out. In Hamilton, Niagara, we'd actually see tragedy for the Conservatives managing to win this riding. Now, on the campaign trail, it was quite clear the Conservatives were pouring a lot of resources into this riding, and as a result of that, it does appear to be quite obvious. But Hamilton traditionally has not been thought of as a Conservative area, but with their new MP, that might be about to change. In Mississauga-Oakville, Phonexia has returned to the House of Commons. So now, I know she was concerned better possibility of being re-elected. With a margin like this, 46 to 38, I think that's quite comfortable, especially for a smaller party candidate. I know a lot of people in Mississauga and Oakville do like their MP, and this is a very strong showing for Phonexia and for the Pirate Party. In Durham, we actually see almost a tie. It's a vote, a riding won by less than, slightly more than, 300 votes. The Conservatives have beat the NDP. What's interesting is how poorly the Liberals have done. The Liberal candidate, also known as Aiden, has held many high-ranking roles in the past, and for this result for him, must be a bit disappointing. In Belleville, Kingston, Cornwall, Nottabonobo has beaten a 7-5. Now, this has been a riding that a lot of people have been keeping their eye on. Ace is seen as an up-and-comer within the NDP, as someone who has fairly young, but has come into the party, is just starting to reach the climax of his political campaign, whereas Nottabonobo is accused by some of actually having been the shadow prime minister and the shadow leader of the Liberal Party. So this race in particular put two very big heavyweights against each other, and it looks like Bonobo has come out on top. And Don Valley Scarborough, we see the Prime Minister Feline Nibbler re-elected, although we'll have to see if he remains Prime Minister, over a Radical candidate, but the Radicals have taken 42% of the vote. Now, this should be a warning sign to Feline Nibbler, as we saw with Dominion, his riding was won much more comfortably. And this could be a sign to Feline Nibbler that perhaps his term in office is not quite as popular as he would have hoped. In Brampton, Burlington, we have a victory for the Conservative Party. In London Guelph, we have Red Wolf re-elected. He is the Deputy Prime Minister. Interestingly, the last election ran as Liberty Party leader, as an offshoot from the former Libertarians, and he is re-elected very handily in London Guelph. In Simcoe, Muskoka, we have Vanilla Donut beating a Radical candidate to become re-elected as well. Vanilla Donut has been somebody who's been actually coming up through the ranks in the Liberal Party, but he's a very quiet personality. He's not quite as boisterous as, say, Red Wolf or Bonobo, but has definitely been making waves within the party and rising through the ranks, and it'll be interesting to see where his political career goes from here. Now, in Windsor-Sarnia, we have the first major upset of the night, with Popcorn Pissersnitch, the sitting MP, and very high-ranking Radical member, being defeated, going down to defeat, by the Conservative candidate, James the 15th. Now, this is definitely a shocker for a lot of people across the country and in Windsor-Sarnia. Now, I know in Sarnia in particular, Popcorn has a popular following, but it appears that throughout the riding as a whole, he could not hold on, and Popcorn and the Radicals will definitely be looking at what happened here and examining how they can make sure something like this doesn't happen again. In Waterloo, Norfolk, we see the Conservatives winning, with 38% of the vote. Excuse me. And in Kenora, Sudbury, Renfrew, we have El Chapatado, the leader of the Radical Party, taking a seat in Northern Ontario. And these are the Ontario ridings. Again, very good result for the Conservatives, although the Liberals have taken 5 seats. Now, the NDP, Pirates, and Radicals have all taken 1, and although the NDP may be sitting back on 3 seats at current, we are entering Western Canada, and the NDP is expected to do well in Western Canada. So we will have to see exactly where they pick up seats, if they pick up seats, as if CJ wants to be Prime Minister, he's definitely going to need those seats. So here we go into Manitoba, where Skeena Prime has won the Manitoba seat. Definitely, you could tell by the campaign trail, the Conservatives were leading quite early on. In Calgary, South Lethbridge, we have another major upset with Spindleshire, the deputy leader of the Conservative Party, going down to defeat to the NDP. Now, of course, the NDP does have a base of support within Lethbridge, but it is interesting to see the NDP doing so well in this part of the country, and it may be a signal to the Conservative Party that they may need to re-examine some of their policies. In Saskatchewan, we have what some consider a surprising result, with the Power Ben winning nearly 38% of the vote over both Jas and Purple Slug. Now, I know for a fact both the Conservatives and the Liberals were really hoping to win this seat, and to lose it by so much definitely has to sting for both parties. But it appears Saskatchewan has gone to the NDP, and Power Ben will be its new member of parliament. In Calgary, Arthur Plays Games has won the seat for the NDP over Keel ND. Again, might be another sign to the Conservatives. In Nunavut, we have Kerboga winning 46% of the vote over Tyak 13, who's a very strong independent candidate, had the support of the various left parties. In Edmonton, Polaris 13427K, or Orange Kun to his friends, has managed to win with about 2/3 of the vote. A bit unsurprising, given how strong of a presence his party has been. He created the party from the ground up, and to be elected with such a margin is a symbol of how much the voters appreciate his hard work. In Banff, the Conservatives have won the riding, knocking off just a lump of Canadian, NDP MP, who will not be returning to this parliament. In Peace River, C19JF is the new MP for the NDP, marking a very good night for the NDP in Alberta. As we can see, the NDP has won 3 seats here, 1 for the Conservatives and 1 Pirate. In the Northwest Territories, Was Up 008 has won for the NDP over the Howling Grey Wolf, who defected from the NDP earlier. In Richmond, we see Terrain has managed to beat And It's Ought To, and with a very large margin of victory. Now, I know many people in political circles consider Terrain a very friendly, nice person, and I think his voters, with this margin, must obviously agree. We see King Thoreau winning Vancouver Island against Haley, the leader of the Socialist Party. Now, Haley actually finishes 3rd here, which must be a disappointing result for her. And unfortunately for her Socialist Party, this means that they will be out of the next parliament. In Skeena, Okanagan, C.J.R. Owens, the leader of the NDP, does win his seat with a massive margin, 83% of the vote. And with the total results, we have 10 for the NDP, 10 for the Liberals, and 13 for the Conservatives. It's possible that CJ could actually pull together a coalition government of some sort. In Vancouver Sunshine Coast, Please Don't Yell is re-elected with a little under 60% of the vote over Corey 1971. I understand has excellent taste in blogs. In South Fraser River, Mhog Zoo is going to be the new MP for the Conservative Party, winning with almost half the vote over Maps Are Good, the up-and-comer for the Pirates. And British Columbia is also a victory for the NDP. As we expected, the NDP was going to do well in Western Canada, and we actually see these numbers here on the screen. In the Yukon, a very strongly contested riding, we have Jean Poutine over-daring the NDP, and Jean Poutine has won the riding for the Liberals, meaning Daring will be out of the Commons for the next term, maybe looking for a Senate seat. In the Northern Territories, we have an even split between the 3 major parties. The national results. We have 14 Conservative seats, 11 Liberals, 11 New Democrats, 4 for the Bloc, 2 for the Pirates, and 2 for the Radicals. Now, this does make for interesting coalition discussions. There are only 3 coalitions that can actually form with a majority of seats based on what we think is the most realistic options. The first is Conservative Liberal, the second is Conservative NDP, and the final is Liberal NDP with Pirate support. Now, each of these coalitions involves 2 of the 3 major parties, and in one of each, the other major party is the official opposition. So it remains to be seen exactly how that's going to play out, exactly who's going to win, and who's going to be the Prime Minister at the end of the day. So, in sum, I hope you've enjoyed this, a little bit rushed. These are basically the things I wish I had been able to point out as we had gone through. It's very cut. Obviously, if we were doing this from scratch, I would be doing a lot more talking and have a lot other people talking with me. But these are the things I found interesting as I went through the results and wished I had been able to point out to you. And hopefully you've also enjoyed them. But again, just a reminder, no, these are not the official results stream. That, unfortunately, for technical reasons, has not been saved. This is just the recap, I guess, for the fall. So, I hope you all have an excellent day, and remember to stop on by to Reddit at r/CMHOC for some interesting Canadian political simulation.